because the intent of this session is to, it would be more helpful for people who are beginning the journey a little more, because it provides acts as a guide to where you could probably look at for various investment avenues for your various financial goals. So, if you have any specific questions, we have not gone into too much detail and we have tried covering more of the financial assets. Real estate has not been covered so much, but if you have any specific question on real estate, I would be happy to take it. So let us start the session. We will try making it as interactive as possible. Okay. So, before we think, probably, Tara, can you share the first poll question? See, the topic for today's webinar is the right investment avenue for your key financial goals. I don't know how many of you, I don't know the profile of this audience still. So, don't know how many of you have actually written down your goals, done it in a very structured way. So, if you can just put down, I would like to get a sense of what is important for you people as a financial goal. What do you think in your mind is important? Okay. I see many people clicking on retirement, children's education, okay, vacation, emergency corpus, and thing. Is it for 1 minute, Tara, the poll?
Yes, ma'am. Like 60 seconds. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you still have time if anybody is not answered. I request you to cast your vote. Great. So most of you have clicked retirement as your most important goal, and I'm very glad to see that, because a lot of us compromise on the retirement goal. Nobody is going to give us a loan for retirement. They may give it to us for every other financial goal mentioned, at least here. Vacation, good. People are realizing that vacation is an aspirational goal. So what I'm very happy about seeing this particular vote cast is that all the core goals have been opted, like retirement, your children's education, and emergency corpus. While if only 13%, probably the others have, and a home. Maybe people should also look at upskilling before even a vacation, and try putting it as one of your important goals. We live in a scenario where jobs are not certain, so it's very good to always have that as a goal, irrespective of your age. Thank you so much, Tara. Thanks for this. So, the starting step, see, a financial plan, a financial goal is a very individual story. So your journey is very different, your circumstances are very different. So this, as I mentioned, this is more of a general approach, and you should try understanding. But the three main things that one should look at when you're figuring out where should I put my money for a particular financial goal, the most important is time horizon. Do I have 30 years? Do I have, like most of you mentioned, retirement is the most important goal for you. So am I 25 years? So do I have 35 years for the goal? Do I have 10 years? Do I have 20 years? So time decides a lot on how you're going to plan the next years of investment till you achieve the goal. Second, risk required for the goal. We'll be talking about in greater detail the risk part, and that's one of my favorite areas where I can talk a lot about it, but I'll try restricting myself. And the third is lock-in and liquidity. So when once I know the time, I'll know what risk I should be taking for the goal. I'll elaborate on that again a little more. And third is what should I choose between? Should I have a lock-in, or should I choose an instrument which is more liquid? That is very important, because as I mentioned, we are all in unique individuals. Our stories are different. We have a reason why we are doing something. There is nothing right or wrong about any asset allocation or any investment avenue. Whatever you're doing, do it being cognizant of the first two, your time, your risk, and what is required for the goal. Okay. So these are the three main things that factors that determine which investment avenue that you would probably be looking at. Okay. Just a second. Yeah. So broadly, very broadly as a classification, short term is anything less than 1 year to up to max of 2 years. Okay, this would be considered as a short time horizon. Medium term is 2 to 5 years kind of a scenario. And long term is anything more than 5 years. So when we come to the investment avenues, we will tell you why 5 years is good for in 5+ years is considered good for certain investment avenues and so on. So, but broadly, this is a time horizon that one would consider. So when you are one of the most important things, like some of you have seem to have actually put down your financial goals, you seem to have put a tick mark for it based on the vote that you have casted. So try classifying your goals as whether it is less than 5 years, less than 1 year, 5 to 10 years, more than 10 years. So there are two things that you need to classify when you're doing a financial goal. One is on the time part and one is on the priority part. And the third way to look at it is this my core goal or my aspirational goal? When we saw that vote, I was also happy that all the core goals were selected, like retirement, your children's education. I didn't put marriage. Maybe that's also a core goal, a home. So you need to prioritize your core goals first and then your aspirational goals like a vacation, a dream car, a dream home, that the next iPhone, whatever. I'm just giving random examples. So classify, you'll need to figure out which is my short-term goal, which is my long-term goal. Again, it's your own story. You need to do it yourself. If you can't do it, please reach out to any person, advisor, or somebody who can help you with that at least the first time, and then you can probably build on it. Okay, because these are all, they sound theoretical, but they are the most important steps. If you get this right, you will get into the process and the journey, and then the rest is easy. Yeah, the risk. Now we're coming to the second part. So you understood that you need to classify the goal between various time horizons, short, medium, and long, prioritize it and see where which goal fits in. Which goal do I need to achieve at what point in time? Okay. Financial planning is a very detailed topic, so we cannot get into this for this particular session. But broadly, to give you a structure, this is how you can start in case you have not already done the process exercise. So we know that we are coming to the second part, risk return scenario. So we know we are broadly familiar. There's a lot of information available. Lower the risk, lower the returns, higher the risk, higher the returns. So if you see this spectrum, this graph clearly shows how if you're holding money in a savings bank account or cash, okay, that would be the safest. Okay, but it's also not going to give you more than 2.5 to 3%. On the other hand, if you move to property, the risk is slowly, gradually moving towards a medium risk kind of scenario, but will give you a higher return. Again, depending on where you buy the property, how much you buy the property, and all that, how the economy and all, a lot of factors go into it. And if you go up the higher spectrum, you have alternatives like alternate investment products, structured products, and all that stuff, which give you maybe easily 20-25% plus returns on a CAGR basis, but they carry very, very high risk. So only very seasoned, well-informed investors should get into it. So risk return of the investment avenues have their own profile. Yeah, before I go this to this Tara, maybe I would like to see what people think about their own risk profile. So can we have the second poll? Yeah. So I would like to know how many of you know understand your own risk profile. Are you, where do you fit in this amongst these five options? Because that determines a lot on besides time horizon where you think you would be. Nice. I see most of them saying moderate to moderately aggressive. Good. It's almost 80%. Okay. Yeah. Would request all of you to respond so that we have a sense of the audience. So till now about most of you, 57% have said moderately aggressive. That's gone to 50. That's come down to 52%. Moderately conservative is 1. Okay. So most of you have said I'm moderately aggressive. Great. I don't know the age profile. I'm assuming you're a younger crowd or you're someone who knows about investing and knows the plus and minus. Great. And most of you have said moderate risk also. So 52% is moderately aggressive, to moderatist about 24%. The rest is between the other three. Aggressive is only 12%. Okay, fine. Thank you, Tara. So this is very important step. You should first determine what is my risk profile. Am I somebody who will take the risk? So this you we saw how you classified yourself within the various categories. Now, one important thing here, just a second. Yeah. Very important. This graph is very, very important because it your financial goals lie in various time horizons. So it is, and the corpus requirement also. For some, you probably need a small corpus and could be short term. For some, you need a very big corpus. We will be taking two examples of two important long term goals in later in the session. So you will also know at that point in time. But it is very important. This graph is very important because every goal will have a different risk necessity. I would probably put it as necessity. So if you see that the three circles, one says want. Want is what is my general outlook towards risk? Am I someone who's willing to, who's not averse to taking risk? Am I somebody who panics if the market falls even by 1 to 2%? So, what is my attitude towards risk? Second is need. How much risk is required for the goal? If I'm only 30 and my current expense is already 1 lakh, the kind of corpus that I would need when by the time I retire at 60 my guess is between 6 to 8 crores easily. Okay. So, what is how much risk do I need to take? So that kind of corpus, even if you're assuming a steady rate of earning growth in your earnings, it's a huge corpus. So the kind of investment, the kind of effort that you need to put over the next 30 years is going to be huge. So how much risk I need to take? So that investment avenue should meet that corpus ambition. So you should be taking higher risk. So how much risk does this particular goal require? Third is, can I afford? I may be only 25. I am not earning so much, but I know given my requirement, I know I need to get touch 10 crore corpus by the time I retire. But right now I can't do it. So the third is, can I afford? An amalgamation of these three is what you should be looking at ideally in terms of risk product for that particular investment avenue. Okay, so understand these three things. What is my risk attitude? What is the risk required for the goal? And can I take that risk? All three play an important part. The third is also linked to this third point of affording thing. How comfortably am I placed financially? The third point, if you recall, we had seen lock-in and liquidity. Okay. Can I afford to have, so when I'm deciding on an investment avenue, I put it into an FD or I put it into a long-term insurance product. Both have its plus and minus. Okay. One may probably give you some big lump sum after many years, but it'll have a lock-in. Can I afford that lock-in? Do I need that money? In case there is some emergency, do I have some backing to take it? Or should I put my money for it temporarily into a liquid kind of investment avenue? I want to buy a car for my family next year. But at the same time, I need so which instrument should I be putting it into? So I should be putting it into something liquid, even for a long-term goal. Should I be putting it into a mutual funds which gives me liquidity, or should I block that money in a long-term insurance product? So such things, you know your family circumstances, you know where you are placed. So that liquidity and lock-in is very important while deciding which investment avenue that you would be going in for. Okay. So ask yourself these two questions. Can I afford to have an investment avenue where there is a lock-in? And I don't need to touch that money for any purpose. Second, am I well prepared? Tomorrow, some emergency in the family, something happens to some elderly person and I need to pitch in. Do I have the funds ready for it? So why you should prioritize is also this: the way you plan your resource allocation is very important, especially for people who are beginning on this journey. You will not have all resources to meet all your goals. You will have to build on it, and that happens over a period of time. Then you do it in a structured way. When you know where you're going, when you know the direction, you will do it. But you need to be aware that I am currently given, if I can invest only 100 rupees, that 100 rupees can go only to these two goals. It can't go to all of them. So have an overall sense of where you are financially. It is very important to get a proper structured financial plan done. That will help you to do it in a very systematic way. Okay. The next is, so we covered what are the factors. So where do I invest is something that we need to look at. So broadly, these are the different investment avenues. In the earlier slide, we saw this graph which showed the risk return profile. So we will broadly be covering, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, I've not touched on real estate. Most of us do real estate. If you have any specific questions, we can. We think real estate is good, especially with the first home is important and good. You need to have that, but do give it a thought before you go in for the second home or the third home or the multiple plots. You need to give it a thought. So when we're talking equities, we mean either shares or mutual fund across these different categories. Alternatives are alternate investment funds and structured. Alternate investment funds are the highest in the risk return spectrum. Only typical, as a house, we do not advise if it has more than 10% of your portfolio. So only seasoned investors should look into it. I've just put it as one of the options, especially if you have time on your side. Typically, the experience is only those who have fulfilled all the other goal corpus requirements can afford to get into an alternative product. That's also the reality. But I'm just putting it as more from an understanding point of view. Hybrid, when we say hybrid, it could mean hybrid mutual funds or even NPS, which is a beautiful hybrid product. Insurance linked investments, it could be ULIP, it could be your endowment plans, it could be a guaranteed tax free income products, which we think are very important for retirement purpose because they're tax free and they ensure a regular cash flow. ULIPs in today's context are almost at par with mutual funds, even in terms of cost structures and all that stuff. Debt and gold, when we say debt, it could mean any one of those what we systematically do, like EPF, PPF, Sukanya Samriddhi, FD, RD, or corporate bonds, RD. It could be any one of them. Okay, so this is broadly, and this when we say investment horizon, this is the time horizon that we recommend. At least you should be looking at. Don't get into equities, alternates if you're not looking at least 3 to 5 years kind of a scenario. Time horizon. Hybrid is good. Hybrid, I'm not talking about NPS here. Hybrid mutual funds are good if you're looking for at least 2 to 5 years. Because when we say this is the time horizon, because this is the time that you need to give to that investment product to show returns. Don't, there are so many, last year was a beautiful example, seeing how well the markets were doing. So many got into the markets expecting the same kind of returns every year. It does not work that way. Equities as a class, whether you do it as shares, you do it as mutual funds, even hybrid, I would say, if you don't want, not willing to stay invested for at least 3 years, don't get into it. Get into a debt product that would work for you probably. Insurance linked investments, at least 10 years, because even in insurance linked investments, whether you take a guaranteed tax free, which is a debt product, you need to have that kind of a premium payment to really for you to enjoy that kind of cash flows, tax-free cash flows. Even ULIP, you need to give it the time. It's just like a mutual fund. You need to give it the time, especially if you're choosing a equity scheme and in your ULIP unit-linked insurance plan, you need to give it the time. So 10 plus years. Debt I've written depends on the requirement, short and long term. Debt is beautiful that way. It gives you a plethora of options. You have your employee provident fund, which is long term. You have your PPF, which is somewhere in between medium term. You have your fixed deposits, which can be short term, RD, even shorter. So debt is, you take a call. Debt mutual funds, you take a call depending on your goal. Gold and commodities. Ideally, gold should not cross more than 10% of the overall investments. It's good if you wait if you see even the sovereign gold bonds which the government was issuing till probably last year. the time period was 8 years. Typically, gold, if you see, it'll follow a cycle, and gold or any commodity depends a lot on geopolitical dollar rate, as on date dollar rate. We don't know how it's going to pan out in future, dollar rate and all that. So gold, stay invested. Don't look at gold as a short term thing. Many have been very fortunate. If you got into gold in the last 6 months, you've still made money. But it's like equities. You don't know. It's if tomorrow things cool down on the geopolitical front, gold may not do all that well. So even with gold, have a long-term horizon of at least 5 to 7 years. Try not going overboard with gold. We will try answering questions if you have anything specifically on it. Okay. Um, so this is just for your thing. These are the taxation thing. The one good thing that the government has done over the last 2 years is they have aligned the tax rates across all investment products. So long term for most of them is 12.5%. Short term is taxed at your slab rate, or 20% in case of equities. It is actually a very good thing. So your investment choice, your investment decision is not tax driven, and it is more of a financial planning or asset allocation driven. And I think that's very beautifully done by the government. Earlier, when most of us were under the old regime, we have seen how people used to just rush to buy a last minute term cover, or some put money into PPF or put money into an ELSS, which has a lock in, more to fulfill the tax specific requirement. Now it has moved from that approach to a more of an asset allocation or a financial planning approach. You can just refer to the tax liabilities under different investment products. ULIPs, there's been an important change. Most of us opt for ULIPs, especially as one of the options under the child education category. So if the premium exceeds 2,50,000 in a year for newly purchased ULIP after April 2025, the payout will be taxable now to that extent. Okay, so be aware of the change in rule with respect to ULIP. Okay, so we are moving. We will try taking questions now. We will first talk about this particular retirement goal as an example. I'll show you workings also, and then we could probably take one round of questions on the retirement part. So before that, Tara, can you just shoot the third poll question? I would like to see how many of you. Please don't use Google. Try just guessing. Can you throw the third poll question, Tara? Yeah. So if your current expense is 1 lakh, and if assuming inflation is constant at 5%, what do you think this 1 lakh will be 20 years from now? Take a guess. Don't use Excel. It's a simple Excel calculation, but don't use Excel. So assume you're 40, you need 1 lakh today's cost. Inflation will be at a constant of 5%. So this 1 lakh when you're 40 years, you're going to retire at 60. What is it going to be when you're 60 years? Okay, most of you have said 2,91,000. Okay, 2,52,000 is less, 2,65,000 is about 25%, and 2,78,596 is okay. Okay. Only 20 of a few of you have answered. Please just take a wild guess. It's not an exam. Just take a random guess. I think we can end the poll. Tara?
Yes,
I don't.
ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And
So
if
most of you
anybody
have
wants,
said what?
yes, sorry, ma'am.
No, nothing. Yeah.
If
Most
any,
of you have said, 43% of you have said 2,91,863. The correct answer is actually 2,65,330. Okay, that is the correct answer. Okay, so we'll go to the retirement goal. I'll also try sharing the Excel working, and probably if any one of you would like to know what is a corpus that you think. So we have just taken a random example more to emphasize 2 points here. That the earlier you start, the lesser the quantum that you will have to invest on a monthly basis every year. and it really benefits if you start early. And also to give you an indication on the if inflation, the big devil in the whole game, will play a very important part in the quantum of corpus. So if you're, I've just taken a hypothetical example of if assuming inflation remains constant at 5%, you need 75,000 today for comfortable living. Okay, for comfortable living, you want to eat out, go meet friends, socialize, healthy lifestyle, everything, you need 75,000. You will retire at 60 and you life expectancy is 85, and let's assume that post retirement also your money will grow at 8%. So given these assumptions, the first five are assumptions. If you're 25, you will need the corpus of almost 10 crores, 9.55 crores when you retire. If you're 30, it comes down to 5.86, 35, 3.6, 40. But the last table, if you see, and this the monthly requirement, the first cell that I have shown is what if you're 25 years today, and this 75,000 will be 4 lakhs when you're in 35 years. If you're it will be 2,53,000 in 25 years for a 30-year-old person, like so on and so forth. Okay, so if I have taken and these are the monthly investment, there is just one small correction. I will show it in Excel. This is 25, 35, 45 and 55. I'm sorry about this. Okay, and monthly investment to be made, if you can see, it increases as you're older. So the second point that we are trying to again drive is, one is the huge corpus that is required because how inflation plays. The second is what the earlier you start, the better. So the person starting regularly investing at 25 will face less difficulties, will be less burdensome in towards their late 40s and 50s, because they would have already planned and are achieved quite a bit of the corpus required only for retirement. Remember, retirement is just one of our goals. We will face so many other things. We'll have so many other necessities or events in our life for which we need to plan financially. But retirement is the most important and the simplest goal. So I would advise young people, even if you don't have anything, you definitely would have an aspiration to retire by 50, 55, 40, 45, 60, whatever be the age, to start working towards that goal. Most, and the last point is, nobody gives us a loan for retirement. Okay, so always, I personally would say, always prioritize this as your most important goal until and unless there's any other health emergency. So if you look at it, so broadly we have taken five different age categories. So if you're young, I would still say debt. When I say debt, if you recall, I mentioned debt could be anything: your employee provident fund, your public provident fund, or could be many things. So if your organization is giving you EPF and all that, and you are supposed to opt for it, please opt for it. I'm a big fan of silent saving avenues like your employee provident fund, because you don't realize when you beautifully built a big corpus. So many of our clients, if you see, if they may have started with other investment avenues like mutual funds or PMS a little late, but they have been at EPF, they have not withdrawn. And some, for many of them, if they lead a simple lifestyle, that is more than enough to meet their retirement corpus also. So please always try not withdrawing from your EPF. Here, for a young person, when I say the first category, when I say debt, I most probably mean EPF or a PPF. You can look at equity. You are at an age group where you can invest a lot into equities. You can afford to take that risk, as well as alternatives. Okay. Well, we move to the second stage when you're newly married. You again, debt is EPF. You can slowly, it's a stage where you should gradually start in looking at maybe hybrid options like an NPS or a hybrid mutual fund. Stick to equity, stick to thing. You could also start looking at insurance linked investment products. But when I say insurance linked investment products, something like ULIP is better, which will give you an insurance as well as help your corpus grow. Third stage, you're getting married. Again, try realigning your hybrid component, slightly increase it. The others should continue. In between the when the stage when you have kids and you have parents and all that, as well as in the early 50s, so that's a stage probably you can look at another insurance product like a tax-free income. It will help you give a regular cash flows. It should not be your only investment avenue. it should be one of your investment avenues. So the thing does not change. I mean, it does not go, the investment options not drastically change. It's just that the percentage that you're looking at should gradually keep be realigned at every stage in life. Final stage, when you've actually retired, try having most of a big part of it is in debt. Again, it's a very individual thing. You may have a very big corpus, so you can afford to at that age put into alternatives and other equity options also. But generally, like, you can stay invested into a hybrid or a debt option, because they will ensure your capital preservation as well as cash flows. Okay. Few takeaways here. I mentioned this point: mandatorily have an allocation to debt investments like EPF, PPF, NPS is hybrid. They help you build a corpus very silently, build tax-free investment avenues. That was one of the reasons why we say mutual funds is better. One of the reasons why we say your guaranteed tax-free income. Why, even though insurance, that generally as a rule you should not club investment and insurance, but this, because it's tax free and even today the IRR is about 6 to 6.5%, have it as one of your investment avenues because it will guarantee a cash flow to you. Allocation to equities, especially if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, is very important, gives you the scope to build a higher corpus. Realigning the corpus at every stage in life, very important. And realignment a few years prior to your actual retirement goal year is important. So if you're retiring at 60, by your 52, 53, start moving it slowly to a hybrid option and then to debt option, at least for the first few years of cash flow. It's very important to plan that so that your capital is preserved. You've worked for 30, 35 years, locked it out. You've done all this so that you can have a peaceful retirement life. So realignment is very important, especially when you're between 50 to 60. You would have not you would have achieved the corpus, but if your corpus is in the wrong place, it may impact your earnings and impact the inflows. So make sure you use that phase as for consolidation and realignment. Okay. So yeah, probably if anybody would like to, so we have actually worked it out as I mentioned. We did it at for 25, 35, 45, and 55, and that's how we got the numbers. So again, my apologies. In that slide, I've said 25, 30, 45, and 55 probably. It's 25, 35. Okay. So anybody would like to have any questions specifically on retirement or any what we have spoken till now? Would be happy to take maybe one or two, and then we can move to other important goals. Any question, Tara, or can I
Yes,
move?
ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes. I will take the first question.
Sure.
How good is multi-asset fund for SWP? Which category of fund is preferred for SWP as a passive income?
Okay, as a passive income, yeah, definitely multi-asset is good because it gives you an option to spread across different asset classes. So even if you're in your 20s and 30s, you can have probably one multi-asset as part of your allocation. Good to set up SWP from that also. We typically suggest BAF funds, balanced advantage or any kind of funds, because there is an automatic allocation between debt and equity, depending on how the markets do well, and they're also more tax efficient. But multi-asset also, with the exclusion of probably gold, they would come more or less in the same category. So you can definitely look at that. And some of the multi-asset schemes, I cannot name it, but have done extremely well also. If you take the last 5 to 10 year kind of a return scenario, maybe also because gold has done extremely well. But multi-asset is good to have as one part of your portfolio.
Okay, ma'am. Just I'll take one more question. How to beat
Sure.
inflation during retirement period?
Can you repeat it, Tara? How to?
How to beat the inflation? Like how to overcome the inflation during
Ah.
the retirement period?
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's a very, very good question. So see, when there are two ways you can look at, I don't know the age of the person who has asked me. So if you want to beat, there should be some corpus of yours. If you want to beat inflation, if you're in the stage before you have actually retired, have an idea of the corpus. So when you're arriving at your corpus itself, you will assume that your money should grow at least 6% or 7% or 8% post retirement. So you will arrive at a corpus which would have factored in. Now, factored in because you will be taking inflation into consideration at that stage. Okay, this is so if you're in the pre-retirement phase, this is my part of my answer, that when you're arriving at the corpus itself, take the highest inflation scenario possible. Like in this case, while that example I showed you, I have taken 6% inflation. Okay, 6%. My guess is on the very higher side because we are already as a country, until and unless things go terribly wrong, like how it went in the case of US. US showed 9% inflation last year. Broadly, our inflation should be RBI's target is 4 to 6%. Okay, for inflation, we have touched 4%. I think they've done a wonderful job. 5%, 6% inflation is also on the higher side. So when you're planning your corpus, keep inflation high and keep the expectation of return low to arrive at the right kind of corpus. Now, if you're already retired, there should be some allocation of yours into little high risk investment avenues like equities. If even if you're a moderate risk taker, maybe 70% can be into hybrid or debt and 30% try keeping it into equity so that your money grows. That is how there's a slide that I've included to show asset allocation, and at that point in time I'll also answer how much your return should be so that you effectively grow a corpus. Okay, so if you're already retired, try having at least 20 to 30% into an investment avenue which will help you beat inflation, and that in all probability it's only equities. Okay, which will it will give you at least 2 to 3% over a fixed income and inflation rate. So there should be some allocation. So plan your investments post retirement also in such a way that your initial inflows are coming in from debt and hybrid funds and the later part is coming in from equities. I hope I answered that question. Yeah, Tara, we can either move on to one more question or I can go back to the session.
No, ma'am, I think you can go back to the presentation. We will take the
Okay,
same
okay.
after the presentation concludes.
Okay, okay, yeah. So we are now moving to so we covered one very important core goal, and now we'll move to another very important core goal called children's education. Each one of you have a different aspiration for your child. Many of you probably in the audience, children have already completed their graduation or something and moved out. Some maybe have just started, some may have maybe just start beginning to think along those lines. Just to, a lot of we increasingly over the last 5 to 8 years, we are seeing aspiration of parents to send their children overseas for at the graduation level itself. When maybe 20, 25, 30 years back, people had started going overseas for post graduation. Before that, very rarely, maybe very extremely well-to-do families only used to send their children. So we have seen a big change in that. Now you see many kids going at the graduation level overseas. So if you have that aspiration, if you can shoot that poll, I would just like to know if you have that aspiration and which country you want to send your child. A lot of things are changing globally, geopolitically. So I would like to just have. So which is your preferred destination for your child's education goal? Let's take undergraduation itself. Okay, nice. Most of you are saying okay. Nice. I wish I could speak to each one of you to understand why you're saying this. Helps us also present different scenarios. I would request, even if your child have crossed that stage, I would request you to just pick a location to just tell us which you think is the best destination from an education point of view. You needn't necessarily have a child in that age category, but which you think is good for your children. Okay, great. So most of you have selected US, 41% US, 30% India, good, 15% Europe, Singapore 11%, and Australia. Extremely on expected lines for me, and nothing nice or not nice about it, but it was on expected lines for me. Okay. So most of us, so as we can see, many of us have that aspiration to send our children abroad. Now, this is just a very rough calculation on how things are for a medical or an engineering course, how the things change. If you're going to send your make your child study for either an engineering or medical seat in India or overseas. Here, just one thing. So, if you, for just for example, if you say an undergrad at the even to prepare them for the medical or the engineering seat, you'll end up spending maybe 1 lakh to 3 lakhs per year when they enter the PU or the 11th or 12th standard, as you call it, per year, just to help them enroll into the right course. Okay. Again, for medical, depending on whether it's a merit seat your child has got, non-merit seat, private college, the cost can be anything with as low as 2.5 lakhs per year and can go up to 15 to 30 lakhs. I was speaking to someone and they were telling me that it's a no, for a non-merit seat for their child per year it will work out to about 22 lakhs. This is for a medical seat. Okay, so the parents were also evaluating, is it worth it? Because there are enough other options. So, if you take abroad, safely assume that the cost is between 2.5 to 3 crores for premium locations like US, UK, Canada, Singapore for an undergrad engineering course. Forget the other costs involved in their applying fees, may probably going and checking out the universities and application fees and a lot of other incidental expenses. Just the 4-year cost, it works out to about 2.5 to 3 crores in premium locations like US, UK, Canada, and Singapore. If you go to the next rung, which also has very good universities like Germany, Poland, probably some of those CIS countries, it's easily 1.5 crores. So the cost of educating your child, if you're opting for these courses, there are many options nowadays, but I'm just giving this to give you a sense to make you understand the gravity and the importance of planning for it. That is the objective, and the objective is not to alarm or scare you that, oh, is it so high? It is more to say that you need to be conscious and aware that once you have kids, that this is an important thing that you will need to have an eye on. So overseas education is 2.5 to 3 crores over a 4-year time period. In India, a medical college seat over 4-5 years could easily work out to a crore if it is in the non-merit category. Just be aware of these numbers. So using the same broad fee structures, okay, if you see for the same, we will be sharing the PPT. You can also see for the same assumptions I have taken. Once again, yeah. So if you're going for a regular stream, you're happy if the child does a normal graduation course. So current cost for the full course will be about 6 lakhs. And assuming these are the assumptions, assuming a child is only 5 years and inflation for education, I've been very kind here. I've taken only 7.5%, but we all know just a yearly increase in school fees itself is 10%. Okay, assuming 7.5 years, and here when you need funds to be ready, I have mentioned 17 years. Why? Typically, for an education or a retirement goal, money should be moved to a debt category very 2 years prior to the goal year. So that's why I've assumed 17%. And let's assume you get returns of at least 10% from your investment. So your 6 lakhs, if your child is 5, by the time they are 17 will be 14.29 lakhs, assuming 7.5% inflation. If you have not started any investment, you should be doing at least 5,000 rupees every month so that you have this money ready, okay, for the thing. Let's go to the other extreme. You want to send the child to one of these premium locations, as I mentioned. I told you that the cost could be anything from 2.5 to 3 crores. I've taken on the higher side. So this 3 crores today, it is 3 crores. We have validated with many clients of us. 3 crores today will be 7.14 crores when the child is 17. Okay. If you have not started any investments, you have to do at least 2,58,479. So your aspiration, your intent will be somewhere in between. It's very difficult, especially if the child is small, to start thinking along those lines. But probably you can start with your aspiration for now, and then see what the child exhibits or shows in terms of an interest, and accordingly modify it. Okay, investment money was never going to go waste, but start with your aspiration if the kid is too small. Okay, so the intent is if to give you an indication on the just like retirement, the big how big the corpus could get and what you should be doing to achieve it. Okay, so again, the options are not very different. So if your child is very small, you can here I have mentioned debt, equities, hybrid, go for aggressive category, and insurance. So even if you're choosing NPS, if you're also young, look, go for 75% equities, because you have the time on your side. You can look at start an NPS Vatsalya account for the child, which will help them. You can withdraw, I think 50% of that for one-time withdrawal is allowed when they turn 18. So you opt for NPS Vatsalya. It's a very recent product. And if you're going in for the old regime, you can claim a deduction under Section 80C also. Go for hybrid also, go for aggressive option. Good to have a big good chunk into equities, because you will have time on their side. This is if they are still small. Insurance, go in for a ULIP if you want to go in for a ULIP, so that you also get an insurance cover. Go in for a waiver of premium option. You have ULIPs with waiver of premium options. You can reach us, or you can reach to any of your advisors to understand this. They work well, so that your child's education goal is taken care of, even if there is any unfortunate event in the family. Okay, if once they have grown up, we would still ask you if debt. When I've said debt here, debt also means if you have a girl child, if the girl child is less than 10, please open a Sukanya Samriddhi account. For boys, you can open PPF. See, the rates of Sukanya Samriddhi gives very good return at 8.2%. PPF is at 7.1%. Not great returns, but they still beat inflation. And these are in all likelihood investment avenues where it will never go out of the tax-free status, because it's also a political vote bank, I would say. So good to have a one part of your allocation in these investment avenues, PPF, Sukanya Samriddhi. One, if the kids are slightly grown up, maybe if they're already in their teens, you can still continue PPF, Sukanya Samriddhi, and other such similar debt investment options. Continue with your equities, continue with your hybrid aggressive options to reach at least part of their goal, in case you have not started. So the options don't change too much. You can keep good if the smaller your younger your child is the start, because it makes a huge difference to how much you can achieve as a goal. So few takeaways even in the child education part is start early. I'll repeat it again. Invest in a mix of debt and hybrid. Don't while if you have the time horizon of more than 10 years, great to be in equities as an investment avenue, but also have a small share in debt, especially products like PPF and Sukanya Samriddhi. Ensure your insurance plans have a waiver of premium option. So if you're taking a ULIP, try inserting that rider. It's a small cost you pay to have that peace of mind. Realign to debt 2 years prior to the goal, irrespective of where the markets go and all that. If you need the money when the child turns 18, strictly as a discipline, start moving the money to debt option when they turn 16, so that your capital is protected. If you have the luxury of time, structure your investments in an SIP mode. The most beautiful way. We associate SIP with just mutual funds. SIP can work for any other investment avenue also, like NPS, your PPF, anything can be done on a monthly mode. So less burden on you, and you also do it in a very structured manner. Okay. So plan your investments for your child's education in a SIP format, irrespective of which even investment avenue you choose. Okay, then so similar to my child education goal is the marriage goal. Again, for marriage goal, depending on the time horizon you have, try having equities, which where equities again we covered it. It could be shares or a mutual fund. Try having that as one of your options. And then definitely you will be having gold, silver, and commodities as one of your category. I will repeat: do not go overboard on gold. Gold, typically, gold or any commodity should not cross 10% of your overall investments. And if it is gold that you like, try balancing between physical gold and e-gold. Do buy physical gold, but understand that there is a making charges when you return loss, the 30-40% loss that you incur, all those charges involved with physical gold, storage charges, which is not there with e-gold. So balance the purchase or investment that you do in physical and e-gold in a very smart way. So these are the options that you can look at for even things. Sukanya Samriddhi is a great, especially in India, we are still in a stage where typically parents spend a little more on the daughter's wedding than a son's wedding. So Sukanya Samriddhi is one where you could probably you can do part withdrawal at the time of their graduation education at 18 years, and then the remaining can be utilized for their marriage. You can hold the account for 21 years, so it gives you ample time to build a good corpus for thing. The maximum tax deduction you get is 1,50,000, but you can invest how much ever you want into Sukanya Samriddhi. We see it with our clients. They've been managed to build a good corpus through Sukanya Samriddhi by doing investments in a systematic way. So if your girl child is less than 10 years, please open an account. You can do it for max of 2 daughters. Yeah. So other important goals typically are emergency corpus. Many of you, I think about 13% ticked on emergency corpus also during that initial poll that we had. Emergency corpus should only be in a debt option, absolutely no equity option. Either put it as an FD or put it into debt mutual funds. Debt mutual funds are little more tax efficient for the reason that unless you redeem, you're not going to be taxed. Whereas in an FD, the interest that you get will reflect in your AIS account. So emergency corpus must be only in debt options. Nothing to negotiate on that. Vacation, people have aspiration to take a domestic vacation as well as an international vacation. So if for a domestic vacation, I think it would be more frequent in all probability. So put that money maybe for the next 1 year into a safe debt option. An RD or an FD works good for this, or maybe even a debt mutual fund. If you have an aspiration maybe once every 3 years to take an international vacation, you could still look at hybrid mutual funds, or and if it's a longer time, you could look at equities. Many clients come to us and say the 25th wedding anniversary, 20th wedding anniversary, where they have time. We would like to have a world tour or something of that sort. They plan into equity so that it helps them build a good corpus also. Other goals are like the grand car or the dream home or thing. Again, it all boils down to when you need the down payment, when you need. If you need the down payment for a car or a home within 1 or 2 years, please put it only into debt. Anything more than that, look at hybrid. And if your plan is a very long term one, like after 10 years, you can afford to put it into equities. If you here one probably I missed mentioning, put invest only into those products where you can understand. While many come to us, having said this, many come and tell us we don't fully understand mutual funds. FD is so easy to understand. You just some interest comes into the bank. We understand that concept. Put in a little effort, but you don't need to get, when I say until invest only into those products where you understand. We see a lot of young people dabbling with futures options. Nothing wrong. If you understand, you know what you're getting into, you understand the risk of each investment class, then do it. We are not saying no or yes to any asset class. It's just that don't lose hard-earned money into something which is not helping you build a corpus. So try keeping it simple. We will also show you with an asset allocation table done actually for clients at a later stage, but try keeping it as simple as possible. Tara, are we taking any questions now, or is there any other poll that you would like to think? I think there's one more poll that we can take, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
I'll just start the poll.
sure. Yeah. So we have covered all the goals. So this is the last question, last poll that we would take. You have a sense now, the very reason. So you please answer which expense of yours you think is going to go up the most. If you're worried about or you need think you need to plan, which part of this is really going to pinch you or is something that you need to plan for. Okay. Again on expected lines and rightly so. Great. Yeah, I think we can end the poll, Tara. Great. Most of you have given medical expenditure and school fees. So 70% have said medical expenditure, and the remaining have said 23% have said for school fees. Vacation a little, food a little. Very nice answers. And along the lines of what is reality, last year I am forgetting the organization name, but they did a survey and they found that, as you people have mentioned it yourself, medical expenditure had the highest inflation at 14%. 14%, not 1 or 2, 14%. And next was education at 10 to 12%. So these two, when you're also planning your financial goals, keep a higher inflation number. While I was showing you children's education, I mentioned that I've been very kind and shown only 8%. Education inflation, please consider it at maybe 10 to 12%, and medical inflation at a much higher rate. Even if you see, typically premiums, we have seen medical insurance premiums have increased quite a bit over the last 2 3 years. So that is a reality, but still take an insurance will always help. But your guess is right, along the right path. Yeah. So finally, why are we doing all this? So that we get our overall asset allocation right, we earn the right kind of return. So if asset allocation end of the day matters, these are three actual financial plans that I had updated for clients over the last 1 week. So if you see, somebody asked a very nice question that how do I beat inflation? Second is an extension of that question that you should ask yourself is, what is the overall returns that I should be getting on all my assets where I put in money, so that I build that corpus, so that I'm comfortable, so that I'm financially free. Based on an observation on how, assuming inflation hovers around 6% or so, if you earn anything from 7 to 9% kind of returns, you will sure short build a corpus to achieve your goals, and it will give you that flexibility and leeway to achieve the goals. So this particular individual, he's 42 years, works in Pune. This is his how if so if you see, he has almost close to about 21% in equities, pure equities, good to 13% in PF retirement funds. I'm also showing you this table to say that nothing right or wrong about any investment avenue. You should not go overboard on any on the debt category, or neither go overboard on equity category. A more balanced approach will, you may not earn the best returns, but it will help you earn optimum returns, risk adjusted returns, which is more important in the long run. So this individual is on his overall assets, he's earning about 8.5%. He's only 42. I'm assuming he'll continue to do his equity investments over the next, he wants to retire at 55, another 13 years. So the share of these equities will go up, and this 8.5% will grow even higher. This number is very, very important. So when you are also doing, it's a simple calculation. You can do it at home yourself. Put down all your assets, see what's the share, see what's the expected returns, and take a weighted return of it. Okay. Good if you're earning more than 7%. Similarly, another example of somebody for whom I updated, he's 50 years working in IT in Bangalore. He's very comfortable. He's also earning about 8.8%. But if you see, these two have significant allocation to real estate. This person has about 50%, he has about 35%. In spite of it, they're earning good returns. Okay, because real estate typically tends to block your money and block your returns, but in for these two, because their share of financial assets is very high. So the this person has almost 12% in RSUs itself. So have a much more balanced allocation. Keep a tab on this number. I'll keep repeating it. This is a third case of somebody who's in from Surat, is 36 years, and he has not, the reason why he's showing a very high number of 10.2% is also because he's not yet purchased a home. He lives in a rented house with his family and family members. So that's all his investments has gone into financial assets, and that is why he's able to earn a much higher number. Okay. So end of the day, asset allocation matters. How and where you put your money and how you plan it matters. So try having an overall return on your assets between 7 and 9%. Finally, a few very important takeaways. First, no substitute for asset allocation and discipline in investing. Whether you do it yourself, you come to people like us for to help you with your financial plan, or you go to anybody. Only these two are the main driving factors. Insurance, do not underestimate importance of insurance. Even before you start any investment, your life cover and health cover is must. If you have not taken one, either do it on your own or approach people like us, intermediaries like us, we will help you. Do not compromise on this. Tax planning, if at all, now government has made the tax part very, not very easy, significantly easier than what it was. But still, if you are still opting for the old regime, let your tax planning also be goal-based and financial planning driven one. Do be very careful before you mindlessly combine insurance and investment. And when I say this point, I'm driving more at probably endowment and money back policy kind of policies where the returns are still lower. You can opt for ULIPs for a corpus growth, or if you want a tax-free option, you can opt for guaranteed tax-free income options. But be think twice before you club both. Definitely should be having EPF, NPS, PPF and all, Sukanya Samriddhi and all, a small part of your overall investments. Then SIP, even term cover premiums can be paid on a monthly basis today. So every investment can be structured on a monthly basis. Put less burden on yourself, on your pockets, and do it in a simple, systematic way on a monthly basis. SIP is not only about mutual funds, it's about other investment avenues also. Okay. So these are a few takeaways. I hope you found it useful and was some kind of a guide for you in figuring out where you could look at for your different investment avenues.